Hi there. Today I want to quickly record a video about what I thought was something interesting happening in the retail space, predominantly dominated by two of the largest retailers in the world, Amazon and Walmart. Obviously, Amazon having picked the initiative and starting off with this major change early on, and then Walmart closely following in Amazon's footsteps to create the same offering. I wanted to make this quick video because I found what Amazon was doing as pretty interesting, more so because it can lead to a fundamental transformation in what we've been made to get used to in terms of what retailing is all about, primarily in the US market. But I would say it's across the entire world, especially in terms of some of the shifting geopolitical environment, which may persist for longer than what's currently happening. And then, of course, what Amazon has been or had been going through over the past several years with the FTC investigations and what Walmart is learning from Amazon's experiences, as always, and then looking at what other retailers or other marketplace platforms could potentially be also doing. Okay, so this was an article, a quick one that I wrote early last year, 2024. And my intention was that as I started looking at the FTC investigations and the impact of it, I also just realized that there is something interesting about what Amazon has been doing during the course of the FTC investigations in terms of its business practices and what it has been shifting and changing in terms of its marketplace model. So this actually caught my imagination in terms of like, why would someone like Amazon, which has been dominating the marketplace environment, really end up doing? So, the concept that I want to cover today is the idea of multi-channel fulfillment services. The idea is fairly simple, and as you could imagine, probably people close to the retailing world already know that with multi-channel fulfillment services, what Amazon is basically doing is telling sellers that, hey, you don't need to sell only on the Amazon platform in order to access the US market and basically sell to US customers. You could be on any channel, any marketplace platform, and start selling your products and just get it fulfilled through Amazon so that Amazon picks, packs, and ships the orders from any particular platform, any selling platform, and basically get it to the customer. Now, I believe that this is one of the ripple effects of the FTC case against Amazon. And there's a video that I put about the FTC case, which you can check out if you're interested in. What's powerful is that multi-channel fulfillment services basically takes the sheen of that entire concept of a closed loop flywheel that Amazon has been famously known for and has been propagating as one of the biggest strategic investments it has made, or the aha moments for what Amazon is all about over the past several decades. And what it does is basically telling sellers that now you are off the hook, right? So basically, it doesn't allow the sellers anymore to be tied to Amazon or be punished for not being tied to Amazon. The sellers can actually have their own website, if you will, like a direct to consumer website, say hosted on Shopify, and still use Amazon services to get their products to the customers, right? So basically, the sellers can work with Amazon's backend, completely detaching Amazon's front end, which is the selling platform, the marketplace platform, and just basically send the inventory to Amazon's fulfillment centers. and get it out the door. And it takes advantage of Amazon's powerful network to get customers what they want. So I believe this investigation probably is one of the biggest things that has happened in the history of trying to push a massive multi-billion dollar company towards actually changing their fundamental business model from what I would say as the everything store to an everything as a service or a services model, which then becomes easy for AWS to also survive because AWS fundamentally is that business model anyway. So the retail business of Amazon has been or had been the one that was a little bit of that closed loop integrated system. And with the breakaway innovation coming from multi-channel fulfillment services or offering, if you think it's not much of an innovation, this is changing. This is changing big time. So I wouldn't go into details of what the inner workings of the fulfillment services are or how it's different from FBA. The key thing is that, as I mentioned, it just doesn't allow sellers to be tied just to the Amazon.com marketplace platform. Why introduce MCF? So, as I mentioned briefly, if you go by the case against Amazon by the FTC, Amazon had been killing sellers on its marketplace platform through several inventive methods. Introduction of this MCF could be a response to the FTC case. The reasons are clear, let me put it that way, that selling of Amazon attracted punitive measures by the company, which were getting explicit, like getting kicked out of the buy box, and the Project Nessie, which I talked about in my previous video, also acting as non-motivator, a subtle and if not even like a strong arm twisting tactic by Amazon to stop sellers from being competitively participating in other marketplace platforms or even on their own selling website, if you will. So the intent here obviously has been to change that narrative to show that Amazon isn't that, and Amazon is certainly about making sellers successful in their business. It looks, from what I understand, as an experiment that started in India initially, and based on the response, the meaningful success, and the learnings from there, I believe Amazon has made it global and started offering it across its multiple markets. And this is very interesting because the Indian market is one of the testing grounds for a lot of business initiatives that I'm seeing Amazon introduced across the globe. And I think it's one of the things where the landscape of India being very restrictive probably is lending to Amazon inventing more different approaches towards participating in the market, especially given the government restrictions on how Amazon can and cannot participate beyond being a marketplace enabler for multiple sellers in the Indian market. Obviously, this isn't like a service being done out of fear or just because the investigations by the FTP, if it was by the FTC, are impacting Amazon's future survival. It also is it's a justification for what Amazon is all about, right? So it is, or it has been, largely a logistics infrastructure supply chain organization for quite some time. And it's one of the reasons why Amazon has become so impossible to beat by even Walmart, which has been significantly amping the game up here, just because the dollars that have been put by Amazon to make this happen is unprecedented. It's so difficult for any of the regular retailers or marketplace platforms or wannabe marketplace platforms to be competitive in this logistics supply chain game. So I believe that in due course of time, the Amazon flywheel is going to fall apart. It's going to be redefined. And you would actually see something shift and change where the established marketplace platforms, starting off with Amazon and Walmart, are going to become more like a logistics, supply chain, shipping company, uh, more than a direct seller of products to customers. And that comes from the China effect, given that the the wealth of supplier base created by China cannot be replaced in the course of human history that we know of as of today, in the sense that nobody can meet or beat the Chinese supplier system anymore. The only thing that you could do is keep leveraging what China has to offer and certainly play ball with China by trying to shift manufacturing bases to a few other countries, which obviously has been in existence for quite a long time. There's talk about India doing that eventually, possibly even trying to provide a strong competitive base for China or an alternative for China. But I don't think that's going to be all inclusive. At best, India could be a manufacturing hub for some high-end electronic items and stop at that. India doesn't have the meaningful play at this point of time to fundamentally shift the China game, which means that Chinese sellers who have actually become the biggest part of Amazon's or Walmart's or any other marketplaces seller network, if I remember, it's almost more than 60% of sellers being from China on Amazon. Pretty much similar numbers possibly on Walmart and so on, because they're all the same sellers. They're all these sellers representing the supplier base in China, almost acting as the sales agents for the suppliers by being closer to home. Very trustworthy network for the suppliers in China. And Shein, Temu, obviously being the targets here for Walmart's game, an exact replica of the multi-channel solution that Amazon is doing. Just shows that eventually the game is about being uh, a front for Shein, Temu to access the US market. So Amazon, Walmart will be providing the fulfillment, the trustworthy network within the US, right? Or for that matter, any other market that Amazon or any of these other entities want to dominate. But basically, it's all about the US at this point. So within the US, Shane, Temu no longer have to worry about how to access or reach to the customers beyond figuring out what products to sell. Because for the Chinese supplier base, Shane, Temu are the representative agents for selling the supplier products, which are like in the millions across different categories. Shane, Temu, for example, then leverage Amazon, Walmart's multi-channel solution so that they don't have to invest in the supply chain ecosystem in the US shores. And in some ways, maybe it is one way of protecting US interests and trying to restrict the flow of goods, or maybe allow the flow of goods to happen in a way that is profitable for US businesses, which is possibly maybe what the current government is very bullish about. So having said that, I just want to quickly cover here that what Walmart did was an exact carbon copy of what um, Amazon has provided. And you can see that fundamentally the benefits are the same. The game is still the same, and the requirements are pretty similar, right? So build your catalog on the marketplace platform, which is now a shipping service, a fulfillment service. Ship to the fulfillment center, which is like an assigned fulfillment center that Walmart owns, and then basically just get your products out there. So as a seller, you know, have a way to get your products shipped out to the fulfillment centers managed by Walmart or Amazon, and then it reaches the customers. This is an interesting shift in terms of how businesses are going to play out in the future. And what I would say is that the ability to rethink business is very interesting in the context of how retail in itself is going to go through multiple transformations. And I believe that this multi-channel fulfillment services is going to pretty much take away the necessity for having a storefront for Walmart or any of these marketplace platforms to have a storefront that is exclusively owned and serviced by these marketplace platforms. The storefront itself could be just broken down into a services model, which would just mean that it would be a somewhat similar operating model like Shopify, where everything is a service, paid, free, or otherwise, and the best player or the best provider of these services wins the game eventually. So, what do you think? What you believe is the motivation behind Walmart and Amazon offering this multi-channel services beyond the usual hype of innovation and, providing value to sellers, right? So we know how that is played out. I think it's more subtle. I think it's more nuanced, and I think it's more strategic. It's possibly even political. And I believe it's also because of the China factor. And I believe it's probably a survival game at this point of time. If Walmart and Amazon haven't done this, they may have been eliminated over the course of the past 2 years, and or run risk of being eliminated over the next few years. So do share your comments. I would love to understand more from your expertise as to how you're thinking about this and what you see as the shifting landscape in the retail, e-commerce, omni-channel space, primarily in the US market, but I would also say closely in markets like India. All right. Until then, thank you very much. See you soon. Bye.